All right, good afternoon. I want to first thank you guys, as always, for taking your time to come out and allow us an opportunity to go through the events that transpired yesterday out in Tahoka and Linn County. I'm joined today by the Sheriff of Linn County, Sheriff Mason. Also have in the back Regional Director Joe Longway with the Department of Public Safety. All of the agencies, including the Lubbock Police Department, I want to extend a thank you to, who provided valuable assistance to us yesterday during that event. Were getting us a lot of real-time intelligence with drone services and some of the other things, but and can't thank the sheriff and her staff enough. As you all well know, it's when you're out on a call out of that kind of length, we start getting really concerned about hydration and those types of things, and they were doing everything they could to make sure all officers, but and ours in particular, were able to get those things as safely as we could do that. I'll begin by just giving you a timeline. I will tell you, I'll offer up, the sheriff's willing, I think, to offer up for any questions on things that we may or may not be able to answer. We'll gauge that at that time. But I will tell you that the criminal event that I think triggered this whole event, just so everybody is clear, that is being investigated by the Lubbock Police Department, so I won't be speaking about it, other than to say that, again, that was the primary reason that triggered the call for us to assist in trying to get that individual, that suspect, into custody. And as usually, which happens in these types of deals where we have a deadly force situation occur, the investigation for that portion of it, with all officers involved, will be handled by the Texas Rangers. They've already taken that part over, and so I'll have to direct any of y'all or your questions on that to them while they're conducting that entire incident investigation. But just for purposes of this, I will tell you that we received a call here in Lubbock at approximately 10:45 from the Linn County Sheriff's Office requesting our assistance. They had an active aggravated assault warrant and had another one pending, which again refers back to the criminal incident that had taken place the day before. We were able to respond. There was a briefing occurred here in Lubbock at approximately 12, or a little after 12, and by 1 p.m. they were rolling south to Linn County. They established perimeter. During that time, we had negotiators, had attempted more than 150 phone calls to try to get this individual to talk, and none of those were successful. In fact, throughout the entire course of the event, the limited amount of times he would interact with our negotiators was once we had deployed the robot into the residence, and we did have some off and on contact. I will tell you that we had intelligence upon our arrival there that there was a high likelihood he was armed with multiple firearms, ammunition. There was also a distinct possibility that he had been and potentially was continuing to use narcotics throughout the day, which had the potential to lead to some of this behavior. Again, we ultimately made contact with him at a little after 3 in the afternoon. By 4 o'clock at that point, he began engaging our armored vehicles with firearms from the house. He was able to strike multiple vehicles. We also know at one point he tried to fire at one of our canines that was in proximity of the residence at that time, fortunately behind the shield on our Rook vehicle. Again, this continued throughout the evening. We still had all indications, not only verbally from him, but family members and other law enforcement, that he was definitely displaying suicidal ideations. He would at times threaten to kill himself, or that he, as we're unfortunately hear all too often, to have law enforcement do it. This continued into the evening. We, according to just our initial reports, he fired his last shots at about 8:30. He once again indicated he was going to exit, and this was probably the 6th or 7th time that he had indicated he was going to exit the residence peacefully and allow us to take him into custody. Again, thanks to some of the technology we had out there, we were able to see that when he did finally exit the house, he still was carrying a handgun in his back pocket. Our officers attempted to get him to follow commands to get into position. I will tell you throughout the entirety of this event that the operators with SWAT that were on scene tried to utilize and deploy every less lethal option we had right up until including the end. At the point that he was refusing to follow the commands so that a team could safely move in and secure his arrest, he reached for the firearm, and officers at that point engaged him with deadly force. We estimate he was dead by about 9:20 last night. At that point, the scene was secure. The Rangers were notified. I will tell you, just moving forward, and I'll hand it over to Sheriff Mason, that we have, of course, placed all of our officers that were directly involved in the deadly force situation have been placed on paid administrative leave. While we work through this, once they've gotten done doing their statements and everything for the Rangers investigation, we will be working to get them taken care of as we move through the last parts of finalizing out this investigation. So on that note, Sheriff, do you want to add anything?
Again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to voice this event. Actually, Sheriff Rowe did complete a very fine statement. Thank you. The event, yesterday's date, started with us about 6:30 a.m. That vehicle was identified in the 1900 block of South 3rd Street inside Tahoka city limits. And so at that point, the warrant of arrest for that suspect was obtained approximately noon, approximately 2:09 p.m. All officers were on scene, including Lubbock SWAT, negotiators, LPD, of course, Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Tahoka PD, O'Donnell PD, Tahoka Fire was contacted, and EMS was on standby, Lincoln County EMS. We appreciate all services rendered. It is a tough situation, and we appreciate all of our law enforcement partners that helped us out yesterday and forward as well. Also like to extend condolences to the family of the suspect. Thank you.
If y'all have any questions for us, we'll try to answer if we can.
Sheriff Mason, obviously this situation has affected many in your community. What would you like to say to those who may have concerns about how it was handled, or even those who are praising how it was handled?
They can contact the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office with those concerns or praises.
Sheriff, is there any information that you can give on the suspect's warrants, if they were related to the Sunday shooting that had occurred here in LPD, or in Lubbock?
That's my understanding, but I would refer you over to Lubbock Police Department for details on that, because again, they're handling that criminal investigation.
And by deadly force, you mean, to be clear, he was shot and killed?
Yes.
Okay. Was he known by law enforcement? Did he have any prior history, any arrests, anything like that?
I've not seen any criminal history with regard to him. I don't know if the sheriff has any any information on that?
He did. He did have a criminal history. Not sure exactly what it was at this point, but he has been in the Lee County Jail before.
Sheriff Rowe, if you would please, kind of explain how often you guys are asked to provide resources to our outlying counties?
Well, and as part of a mutual aid agreement we have with the South Plains Association of Governments, a lot of our grant dollars are provided to us because we have those capabilities to move out to these smaller communities that may be very, very limited on resources. So when they have these types of situations, fortunately, they don't happen all that often. But I will also add to that you know, it's getting harder and harder and more difficult because we are starting to see an uptick in these types of incidents where we end up having, you know, a lot of bad outcomes. And that part is truly unfortunate. But as this area continues to grow and as we continue to battle, you know, the narcotics epidemic and the violence that comes with that, whether it's the direct use of it or whether it's the trafficking of it, we're unfortunately finding these resources having to get used more often than we're used to seeing. But to give you an exact number on how many times, it's not as often as you might think. But we certainly know that if one of our smaller neighbors calls, we're gonna go help.
When it comes to those neighbors, how far out do we typically go?
Yeah, typically, like I said, we'll try to stay within the SPAG region in those counties. But again, it depends on the nature of things. I mean, you know, not to compare incidents, but there's been situations we've been in where necessary if we're in a prolonged incident, and like I talked about on the front end, you know, we're dealing with extreme heat out there. If there comes a point in time where we've got to relieve units in place and bring in others, I mean, there's no telling the distance they may travel or we might do the same and help them. So
when it comes to this incident, having been out there yesterday, I witnessed a lot of officers doing, it seems like they exhausted every resource they could to bring this to a peaceful conclusion. Is that kind of what we're seeing at this point?
yeah, I want to, you know, and I'll go back to that. You know, I said it earlier. Our operators expended every less lethal option we had, and you know, we did everything in terms of negotiations, what conversations they were able to get, and responses we were able to get. You know, obviously our goal each and every time these guys roll out is to have a peaceful conclusion to the event with no injuries to anybody, our people or, you know, the individuals we're having to deal with. But again, like I said, you just look at the time that we were out there from arrival to the time we're handing the scene over to the Rangers for their investigation. You know, we're up close to 7 hours of time we were doing and trying to do everything we could to get him to peacefully surrender and let us take him into custody.
Can we talk a little about what those resources were, as far as you had mentioned something about the robot, and then we did see the bomb squad arrive to lend some assistance.
And the bomb squad was there because they are a primary for our robot that we have. Again, the Lubbock Police Department provided their drone team. They also had units and their Bearcat there for us. You know, I talked to the team leader this morning when I was briefed out on the details of everything, and he made one point very clear, which is, if it had not been for those armored vehicles, we would have probably suffered injury and potential, you know, other things. We also had air assets from the Department of Public Safety, and they stayed in the air as long as fuel would allow for them. And once again, I come back to this. I want to come back to this same thing, which is it's a team effort, and I think it's one of the greatest things about living out here in West Texas is when something like this happens, everybody comes together and, you know, we get the mission completed.
We know that there will be those out there who question the decisions made, and those who may say, well, why can't you just let them sit there and wait till they come out on their own?
Well, and I'll be the first to tell you that the moment he started firing out of the house, out of the residence, firing at us, striking the vehicles, the rules of engagement changed at that point. So we're beyond the point of being able to just say, let's hold off, let's wait for them to come out, maybe try to execute a traffic stop or something along those lines. Those options were gone, like I said, as soon as he decided to start engaging us.
To give an example of what I witnessed as far as what you guys were doing to end this peacefully was the cooperation between DPS and Lynn County to get some kids out of a nearby house driving in tandem. Can either of you talk about that?
Yes. Do not remember the time, but it came to my attention that there were 4 children in the trailer house to the west of the house that we were at. The ages were from age 17 to the age of 8. They were in the furthest southeast corner of that home. So we contacted SWAT, let them know that we had a potential hazard with human beings. They had shut everything down as much as they could and allowed 2 units, actually 3 units, to go in side by side and retrieve those children peacefully.
Well, I'd also like to commend our command staff that were on scene managing that. Typically, one tactic we would employ would be to cut off the electricity, you know, to make the inside of the house as uncomfortable as possible, to encourage the individual to potentially come out and surrender. But because of the decision-making of the folks on the ground, they realized, and once they had talked to the power company, that they would be taking out an 8-block grid if they had tried to kill the power, and that included, well, we don't know what all that included. That could have been seniors, that could have been kids, and there was also a small hospital in there. And so again, everybody was thinking through and trying to do the best, you know, make the best decisions out there, and from everything I've seen so far, they absolutely did just that.
Sheriff, will a name or identity be released, or are y'all working on releasing who this person was?
Again, I'll pass that back
Okay.
over.
The suspect and ultimately death of Michael Montalvo, date of birth 10/20 of 1992, age 31, Hispanic male.
And did he live at that residence with family, or were y'all able to uncover any past behind where he was in that house?
He lived at that residence.
Anything else, guys? Again, thank you all for coming out today, and again, I just would encourage you to follow up on any of these other investigations with either the Lubbock Police Department or the Texas Rangers. When we have a final report from the Rangers on this, you know, we'll be talking to you again about that. But that, we don't have any definite timeline on when that'll get completed. All right.
Thank y'all.